All right, everyone. The legacy media is still bitching about Alligator Alcatraz. I've seen footage from inside of this particular facility. You've got obviously pictures inside of the facility, and I've been looking at them for some time. Link in the description archived, of course, one of the complaints about Alligator Alcatraz. Here's what I would say. Barack Obama, who was a media darling, basically, they didn't even criticize him barely when he was spying on people from the AP at one point. The AP spying scandal, something that you should look up, by the way, if you don't believe me. They didn't criticize him when he created a series of facilities at the southern border that were basically cages for kids. And by cages, I mean quite literally. It was like looking at a bunch of animals that happened to be in human form. And it was actually rather sad because there were so many border crossings, it was massively overcrowded. Alligator Alcatraz, so called, which is simply a detention facility pending expedition of the individual, is relatively clean by comparison. It's newly built. It looks like you have beds. You have blankets. You probably have edible food. I mean, I don't know how the food is there. It's probably MRE style, but I imagine that it's relatively edible. Trying going to jail in Orleans Parish down in Louisiana. No, just a regular jail, not a detention facility for illegals or anything like that. Somebody who's a cartel member, just for regular average Joe public. In many cases, a U.S. citizen or lawful resident. I guarantee that the conditions there are far worse than they are in Alligator Alcatraz. If anything, the only thing that I would change about Alligator Alcatraz is I would say, well, people need something to mind their time. Let's open up the grounds around it, fortify them, of course, and hopefully, they can punch an alligator in the face or something like that. Sounds like fun, actually. This particular facility does not look, it's not disheveled. It's not dirty, although I suspect, over time there will be some buildup of mess. This is pretty much inevitable given the U.S. legal system and the dysfunction that it exhibits. And relatively speaking, though, it looks good, actually. It certainly looks a lot nicer than the detention facilities in most other countries. Unless you go to Scandinavia, then you get a music room and shit like that. And anyway, I noticed that all of the legacy media networks that are covering Alligator Alcatraz, again, so called, they're not talking about any of the facilities that are available or anything else. They're just saying, oh, these people just sit in their cages all day. And that's the only thing that they do. This is a temporary detention facility in which people stay there for, in some cases, only a few days while they're interviewed and processed, and you find out where they're from so you can deport them. So you're not going to be spending months or years in Alligator Alcatraz. They're not actually going to feed you to the gators or anything like that. This is more of a humane facility than you get in some parts of the country for natural-born citizens. Again, I speak from experience. I would much rather be in Alligator Alcatraz than go back to Orleans Parish and be in jail there. Let's put it that way. So when people complain about it, I can only shake my head in sadness and say, how fucking stupid are you? This is better than the Obama cages. The cages for kids at peak when illegal immigration, was exceptionally high, those cells were filled with people and there were no beds. And, there were no amenities whatsoever because they were completely overloaded. Now, this is not entirely Obama's fault, but it was at least partially his fault. With Alligator Alcatraz, you have a temporary holding facility. We're trying to determine whether the person is legally or illegally in the country. Once you have determined that, they either get deported or they don't get deported. That's all you have to do. It's a processing facility. How is this inhumane? Virtually every other civilized country in the world uses the same methodology. And this particular location, I guess that's the problem. They're calling it Alligator Alcatraz because it's surrounded by swamps. Try finding a spot anywhere in the southern half of Florida that is not swampy and filled with anacondas and crazy shit like that. I mean, the Everglades are practically a melting pot. I mean, it's a microcosm of the United States. It's our real melting pot is all the invasive species down there, uh, of which there are many. And the first time that I went to Florida, one of the first things that I saw were a bunch of earn plants that were growing wild. And I was like, wow, I've only ever grown one of those inside. It's a little bit different down there. Although I never saw an alligator or a snake for some reason when I was in Tampa. I was almost surprised at this. I figured they'd be crawling all over the place. I guess you have to go a little bit further south. But, I mean, what's wrong with this facility? It looks well built. Everyone has a bed. Everyone has a blanket and a pillow and all of these other things. I didn't get any of those in New Orleans when I was there. I was sleeping on a bare floor in a jumpsuit. Didn't have a blanket. Didn't have a bed. Didn't have a pillow. Didn't have jack shit. And the food, I won't even get started on that. These people are not being mistreated in this facility. Until I see evidence that these people are being beaten or raped or something like that, I'm going to say, you know what? If you're legally in the country, getting processed in a facility like this, uh, I wish that I had gone to jail there instead, honestly. I'd spend a couple days with the illegal immigrants instead. That's about all. Peace out.